The Great Wall of China, one of the most iconic symbols of China's historical engineering and military defense capabilities, was built and rebuilt by various dynasties over centuries to protect the Chinese states and empires from invasions and raids by various nomadic groups of the Eurasian Steppe, or so they claim. While its construction is often justified by its historical context and perceived benefits, there are arguments suggesting that the building of the Great Wall may have been unnecessary, or at least not as effective as intended, for several reasons. High costs versus uncertain benefits. The construction and maintenance of the Great Wall of China, a project that spanned centuries, absorbed resources on a scale that is hard to fathom, demanding the labor of millions, from soldiers to commoners, who worked under harsh and often dangerous conditions. This monumental undertaking not only required an astronomical amount of material, but also inflicted significant human suffering. The question arises, what if these immense resources had been directed towards sectors with potentially more sustainable benefits, such as agriculture, education, and technological innovation? Could the empire have flourished more with advancements in farming techniques, an educated populace, and technological breakthroughs, instead of focusing on a defense mechanism whose benefits remain uncertain to this day? Limited military effectiveness. The wall, stretching over 13,000 miles, was built over centuries, starting from as early as the 7th century BC, with significant expansions during the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644. Despite its vastness and the monumental effort put into its construction and occasional benefits of buying time to prepare the troops for wear, or even lure invaders to highly fortified sections to gain defensive advantages, the wall's military effectiveness was put into question by historical events. How did such a colossal defense measure fail to fully secure the empire? The Mongols, under Genghis Khan in the early 13th century, and later the Manchus, who breached the wall in 1644 to establish the Qing dynasty, both demonstrated the limitations of static defenses against dynamic threats. These breaches are not merely historical footnotes. They highlight a critical oversight in military strategy that relied on physical barriers for protection. The Mongols, known for their mobility and strategic prowess, were able to outmaneuver the wall's defenses, exploiting its vulnerabilities. Similarly, the Manchus took advantage of internal strife within the Ming dynasty and managed to cross the wall, leading to the fall of Beijing. Why does adaptability often trump rigidity in military strategy? The unforeseen methods of attack employed by these nomadic groups underscore the unpredictable nature of threats, emphasizing that true security often lies in the ability to anticipate and adapt to the unexpected. Bribing the guards. An often overlooked aspect of the Great Wall's history is the human factor in its defense mechanism. Guards stationed along the wall could be bribed or coerced into allowing invaders to pass, undermining the wall's effectiveness. So, it wasn't just a physical barrier, but a chain of human links, and the integrity of the wall was only as strong as its weakest guard. This vulnerability highlights a critical flaw in relying on such static defense measures. Their success is heavily dependent on the loyalty and integrity of individual soldiers. Maintaining the wall. This giant snake wall covered enormous land, which made it a challenge to keep its integrity over the centuries. And it's not surprising that its effectiveness was significantly undercut by neglect, especially during the twilight years of the Ming Dynasty, 1368-1644. Imagine this colossal structure, meant to be the ultimate defense, slowly crumbling away. By the time the Qing Dynasty was knocking on the door in the 17th century, parts of the wall were in such bad shape that invaders could almost stroll through or easily climb over it. This wasn't because the wall was poorly designed, but because it was poorly kept. The Ming Dynasty, bogged down by internal struggles and dwindling resources, couldn't keep up with the maintenance of such a massive structure. Strategic sections, particularly around vital passes like Shanhai Pass, suffered from this neglect. It's like having a state-of-the-art security system in your house, but forgetting to replace the batteries and the sensors. When the Qing forces, led by the Manchus, decided to make their move, they found a wall that was not the impenetrable fortress it was meant to be, but a shadow of its former self. The decline of the wall's defenses mirrors the broader troubles of the Ming Dynasty, including corruption and financial woes. It's a classic case of neglect leading to downfall. When the Qing finally breached the wall in 1644, they didn't just overcome a physical barrier, but exploited a lapse in vigilance and care. Psychological and social impact. The construction of the Great Wall was a colossal endeavor that required forced labor, extracting a heavy toll on the Chinese people. This labor often came from the poorest sections of society, including peasants who were taken away from their agricultural activities, which could have led to economic hardship and food shortages. Additionally, the Great Wall of China, far more than a mere physical barrier, symbolized a profound cultural and psychological divide between the sedentary Chinese civilization and the nomadic tribes such as the Xiongnu, Mongols, and Manchus. It reinforced perceptions of cultural identity and otherness, often hindering opportunities for peaceful coexistence and mutual understanding. While ostensibly constructed for defense, the wall also served as a psychological barrier, encapsulating fears and mistrust between these disparate groups. Environmental impact. The construction and existence of the Great Wall of China have historically caused significant environmental impacts, including habitat disruption, biodiversity loss, soil erosion, resource depletion, impacts on animal migration, water flow disruption, and long-term landscape alteration. The clearing of land for its construction disturbed natural habitats across diverse ecosystems, leading to a reduction in flora and fauna variety. The extensive earthworks contributed to soil erosion by removing vegetation cover, while the massive demand for construction materials led to local resource depletion, such as deforestation, exacerbating soil erosion further. The wall also served as a physical barrier, affecting animal migration patterns, and potentially altered local hydrology, affecting water availability for both humans and wildlife. Over centuries, the deterioration and repurposing of the wall's materials have continued to affect the local environment, highlighting the need for balancing historical preservation with ecological sustainability in efforts to preserve this symbol of cultural heritage.